Tell me
Yeah,
more about.
Area 51, Mars civilizations, moon landing conspiracies, etc., etc. So, welcome to our show, John Lear. Thank you for coming today.
It's my pleasure. What's going on?
We're very excited to have you here. So, where would you like to start? What's your favorite topic of all these things? And there's a list. I was looking through your YouTubes, and you are very knowledgeable. What would you like to? Where would you like to begin? We'll give
The
you the ball, and then we'll ask you
the
questions here and there.
the moon.
The moon.
The
Okay,
moon,
great.
Luna.
What's going on in the moon? What is really going on in the moon?
Okay. Well, first of all, every alleged mission, Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo, were all fake. There's no doubt about that. Nobody went to the moon. Now, the moon is populated by my estimation is about three-quarter or a quarter of a billion people are up there. And
Wow.
I get that estimate because I've gotten so much help and so many pictures from the moon. And I had the great fortune about 20 years ago or so to get some of the early NASA photos that the NASA took with what they call it, I forget, but they sent 6 missions just exploring and taking pictures. And those pictures were really great. However, they airbrushed most of the stuff out of it. Fortunately,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't too knowledgeable about airbrushing. So I was in Portland at a very large bookshop, and I saw a section on NASA photographs of the moon, and I bought them all. There was about 10 of them, and that was fortunate for me because there are none on the market now because they didn't know
Mm-hmm.
how, or they weren't really going to really carefully airbrush everything. So they know what's up there, and you're not sending anybody up there. And as I don't think they're going anywhere unless they're held by ET. So
Okay.
I've got some great pictures, and if you go to thelivingmoon.com, we've posted some of them, and we'll be posting
Uh,
even more in the next few days or in the next few weeks.
Oh,
yeah,
wonderful.
I've seen a number of pictures and heard different kinds of things, but what one that really gets me is: are there slave facilities on the moon and Mars? Are some of the workers there against their will? What did you find out?
What are your thoughts?
Okay, what was that? Was that a question for me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, what was the question?
What kind? Tell me about who is on the moon and what they're doing, and are they slaves?
Right. Are these people free will or are they slaves?
I wish I knew now. Most of the information
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to get is from the people that have been up there. For instance, Howard Menger. Write that down, Howard, and then Menger,
Okay.
Menger. Go to his website, and there's
Hmm.
he wrote a book after he got back in 1956 about what was going on there, and it's fascinating about how they picked him up, how he was a guest there for a couple of weeks, and all the stuff that he did. He died about 2 years ago, but before he did, I was able to get an answer to several questions that I wanted. For one was the daytime color of the sky. And of course, NASA's told us it's black. It's not. It's a saffron yellow. And we made took a picture of NASA. It's a picture that they took of Copernicus. And
Uh-huh.
instead of the black for the sky, we put the saffron yellow. And I sent him 6 swatches of colors and asked him to pick the one that was closest to what he saw. And he
Mm-hmm.
picked one, and so that's those pictures that are on the livingmoon.com. It's so much.
I'm
It's
going
so
to check it out.
interesting to see the stuff that's going on on the moon, and how NASA tries to keep all that information hidden. And I don't know how they do it. For instance, a couple of years ago, they were going to try and go back to the moon. Of course, they couldn't find any of the drawings or the stuff of the rocket. The see, what was the rocket called? Something 5, Agena 5? No, remember what it was. Anyway, they said they couldn't find it. No drawings. They just disappeared. They didn't disappear.
Mm-hmm.
They never went. They never went. They didn't need any drawings for it. And all they did was, for the missions that they showed on TV, all that was a what's the name of those missions that they sent?
Apollo?
Go ahead. What was the name of the missions?
The Apollo missions? And they
You got
were
to forgive
filmed
me because
Mm-hmm.
you got to forgive me. I'm almost 74 and I'm losing most of my memory.
I'll speak. Yeah, it's called are you talking about the Apollo missions? Or,
Yeah.
Because they were the ones that
I just want to know.
supposedly went to the moon. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just whatever the name of that rocket was, it's supposed to. I think it was Saturn V. But anyway, all they had was Saturn IV, and they dressed it up to look like a Saturn V. But there was nothing. I mean, it was a fake. And the way you can tell that is any photo that NASA has published. There's none with a second stage, with a picture of second stage firing, because there was no second stage firing. They waited until it got out of sight, and then they said, it's too far downrange. We can't do that. Da 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 da. And some of the really bad things, nasty things that happened, is Virgil Grissom was very close to exposing this whole thing. And there's a couple of people that I know that say, yeah, he was going to tell what was going on. He made a comment in 1967 that he was standing by the module. The module that they were going to use, he says, this thing ain't going to go to the moon in 2 years. This thing ain't going to the moon in 10 years. And so they had to kill him. And the way they did it is they waited till one of the practice missions, and there was always 4 people in there on the practice missions. And the fourth guy was NASA was the head of the Apollo program, and I try to remember his name. He went to New York that day for a party celebrating Apollo, and the person he put in there instead of this guy was one of the people that was in the secret space program. And the reason they did that is because he was already vetted, already had all the clearances, and they knew that if they killed him, that there wasn't going to be anybody asking any questions. So during the practice mission, they had they had all the transmissions going back and forth, because between the mission that was just there, it wasn't going anywhere. And Virgil Grissom said, "How are we going to get to the moon and talk to anybody if we can't even talk between 500 yards?" And so I think it was February 7th, 1967, is when one of the guys said, "I smell smoke," and NASA had rigged the part of the spaceship that would instantly just catch on fire. And so, everybody in mission control is watching this thing. I'd really, it's maybe morbid, but I'd like to hear what Virgil Grissom, because he knew they were going to kill him, but he didn't know that it was going to be that day. And so he's yelling and screaming and da-da-da. And anyway, they burned all 4 people. Now, if you read any mission report of this fire, you'll notice that there's 45 minutes that nobody says anything. And it was never explained why everything was so quiet and why there was nothing in the recording. Well, the reason is the secret NSA people had to go in and take out the fourth crew member who was part of the secret program. Because if there was a secret, if there was a secret program, everybody would want to know. Well, wait a minute, where does this guy come from? What secret program? And so they had to kill them all. Anyway, a friend of mine was the third guy on the platform, and he's the one that told me all this, and it was really sad. But I think he knows now. I know the name of the fourth guy, and I've never told anybody about it. Because if somebody comes to me and says, well, I know who it was, and all I have to do is say, okay, what was his name? And since I haven't told anybody, I know that he won't be exposed because I've never told that particular name. So I'm holding on to the name now, if it ever comes. But it's been 40 years since this.
It says 40. Let's see, 49 years ago. Looks like January 27th. They said 1967. Yeah, you were close. January 27th, 67. Of course, that's what they say now in a computer. Who knows? They can change anything. But anyway, that's what's here. Virgil Grissom, White, and Edward White, and Roger Chaffee were the three that officially died.
Right.
Yeah.
And I met Chaffee's relatives at the UFO conference in San Jose in 2000, I think it was 2007. And they said, John, we're glad you're coming out with this information because we knew it. We knew all along they killed them. And we were just waiting for somebody to find out who was responsible for it. And they took one of the children of those astronauts and gave him a real cushy job there. And he's been fed all this information for all these years that is just an accident. But there are people still out there that know what happened.
So what about Stanley Kubrick?
Oh, wait, they were all showing, not only do they know what happened, is they all saw that the threat of blabbering will kill you. Everyone got the message. They got to see it. Wow.
Yeah, Kubrick was hired.
Loud and clear.
Kubrick was hired to film the fake missions on the moon, and he did a good job, but it was still fake. And he did it. I think it was in England. There's a couple of videotapes out there that show exactly what he did. And after he did that, he made the fake missions. I mean, it's so obvious when somebody shows you the pictures and how NASA screwed it up. But there is a lot of pictures out there of what happened and how they did it. Kubrick, after this was all over, he went to his house, wherever that was, and he hid out until he died because he knew that NASA was going to come and dispatch him.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Go
ahead. Well, how do people get to and from the moon? How do they get there? How are they transported? What kind of craft do they have? How do they go to and from?
Yeah, are these human people? Are they aliens? Are they humanoids? What kind of people are on the moon? A quarter billion people.
We're all a quarter of a billion people. Yeah, we're all aliens. Our particular set, humans that live on Earth, we're just along a number of a long list of people that were put on Earth to see how they're doing. They made all of us, and that's the big secret of the UFOs. They don't want people to know that it's just a scam. I mean, we're just we're not anything but just regular people, essentially robots that go around and do all this stuff. But the people that really run this are the let's see, there's the reptilians, and above them are the serpents, and they're the ones that control everything. Now, an interesting story about that is how much power they had. There was a planet between Jupiter and Mars. It was called Man, M-A-N, and it used to orbit between Jupiter and Mars, and it was fantastic. It was twice the size of Earth, and it had 112 billion people living on it, and they had
Wow.
fantastic uh, living living stuff. They had as much gold and silver as they could ever want. Uh, it was essentially, a utopian society, and that particular society went on for about 1 million or 2 million years, and finally, the serpents, who are the very top of what's going on, the reptilians get orders from them, and what they want to do is get rid of uh, man. So what they did is they selected a time, and when they destroyed it, it took exactly 2 seconds to destroy the planet that was twice the size of Earth. 112 billion people were instantly exterminated, and all those people, all the souls went to the center of the galaxy, and it was really something. It was really quite a deal there when they were ordered to kill so many people. But
So,
we
what's
have
the source of this information? Where is this written, or how do you
read
come by
any of
this
this stuff.
information?
You can read any of this stuff that is written by Lou Baldin. That's Baldin. He wrote 5 books on this subject. Really knowledgeable. I met this guy on Above Top Secret, and of course this was too far out for anybody there. They did a bunch of morons in Above Top Secret, so you're not going to be able to get any information from them. But I eventually contacted Lou, bought all his books, read them all, invited him to Las Vegas. He came here and we filmed him. They're making a documentary on me, and if it ever comes out, it's going to have a lot of this information. And so that was where I get a lot of the information that is backed up with a lot of historical information.
Well, what's Lou's source? Is he
Lou was
some kind
born
yeah?
in
How does he
1947
know?
in Italy, and his father was part of the U.S. Army stationed in Italy, and he at 5 years old he was picked up by the ETs and taken over the period of the next 35 or 40 years, taken to all different places in the universe. He had interesting rides everywhere, and since I've read so much of this stuff, I can immediately pick out what's true and what's false. And this guy was absolutely on the money, absolutely true with all the stuff that he was saying, and he put out a lot of information on Above Top Secret, and everybody, just they couldn't take it, but I thought it was, and just very, very interesting. So if anybody wants to get any of those books, either Lulu or Amazon or any of those, look for the author, Lou Baldin, Baldin. And if I can find, I'm at my desk now, and I'm reading one of the books that I've read for about the 5th time, and it's really interesting how the hierarchy works with the ETs. And
so he's still with us. He's still alive.
Well, the question is,
still there.
What's working on the moon? I've seen pictures from Ken Johnson of domes, series of domes on the moon. I've seen pictures from Bob Dean that show a strip mine. What are they doing on the moon?
Oh yeah, that strip mine. That's my picture that I got from a bucket wheel excavator, and also, pardon?
Yeah, that's the
It was
picture I
huge.
saw.
Yeah, I think they're on the moon, the picture of the living moon. There's a picture there of the bucket wheel excavator. And I started looking those, and I said I wanted to get that particular picture. So I sent to NASA, and of course you don't get the picture from NASA, you get it from the contractors. And in a couple of weeks it came from the mail, and what happened is, all those pictures come from contractors. They don't come from NASA themselves. They come from contractors. Somehow, somebody, either accidentally or on purpose, managed to send me a 15 by 20 negative of that picture. And it was so interesting, all the stuff that was on there, that I started, copying it and showing it around. And one of my friends then was Bob Lazar, and the picture that I first got wasn't that clear. We're waiting for somebody to come out that had a lot more, a better negative that we could, not negative, but positive that we could look at. As I left Bob's house one day, he says, John, you're crazy, but if any of this stuff turns out to be true, I'm going to kill myself. And I said, okay, Bob, well, I'll tell you what. Let me write that down. And so I said, I, Bob Lazar, I promise to kill myself if any of John Lear's stuff is true. So in about a couple of years after that is when the technology in Las Vegas reached the point where we could get a 15 by 20 positive that showed absolutely everything. And I took it into Bob and showed it to him, and he said, well, that's true. And I started to leave, and I said, now, wait a minute. You promised to kill yourself, Bob, if any of this stuff was true. And he said, is there any way I can get out of this? And I said, yeah, just take this little piece of paper and say, I, Bob Lazar, in return for not having to kill myself, do freely admit that there is an object on the moon that looks like a building. And so I got him to sign that, and I've held that ever since. And also, that's on thelivingmoon.com too. I think both of those pieces of paper are on the livingmoon.com.
Cool.
What are they mining?
Yeah, what's the deal up there?
I don't know. Some of the
don't
pictures.
Know what they're mining.
There's what?
You don't know what they're mining. Okay, so these pictures, I want to back up again. How do we have them? They didn't send a lunar. They just sent, how did they get the picture of these things on the moon again? I want to back up to that. I got confused. If we didn't send
they had
a mission,
missions.
well, how were they doing? So did they send a satellite, or how did they get pictures?
Okay, I didn't hear you. Tell me what the question is.
She wants to know how they got the pictures, the missions that preceded the manned missions, and so-called manned missions. Where did the pictures come from? She wants to.
Yeah, how did they get these pictures if we didn't send any missions there?
Those came from the Lunar Orbiter series, and there was 5 of those missions. They were sent just robotic cameras that they sent between 1965 and 1967, and it took maybe, I think, 1,000 pictures for each place that they were exploring. Now, what they were doing is they knew that they weren't going to the moon, but they wanted to show people that they were making an effort, and those missions were they told the public, we're just seeing where it's going to be possible to land the Apollo missions, Apollo 11, when it gets there. We want to see very good, clear pictures of where the Apollo missions are going to land, and that's where those pictures came from.
Now, has any humans from Earth, this is 50 years later, have we gone there since then, since the Apollo missions? Are we going there now?
Thousands of people have been to the moon. Most of them don't say anything because they know people just flat ass wouldn't believe it. And so they keep their mouths shut. And yes, there are a lot of people that have visited there.
So are we in some kind of relationship with the people who live on the moon with the 250 million people?
Yeah, there's two sets of people that we know of. One are the humans that live there, and they trade with all the people from the other planets. Now, NASA tells us that there's 9 planets orbiting the sun. It's actually 40, and each one of those 40 planets has a few, or actually 7 to 10 moons. And all of those planets and the moons, they do, all kinds of growing and exploring and not exploring, but taking care of the all the stuff that's going on. They do trading. It's really an interesting deal. There's so much stuff going on there. Now,
So
one of the things
it's more like Star Trek? Is it Star Trek, very peaceful, or is it Star Wars, a lot of fighting? What do we have out there for real?
On the moon?
In space, in space,
in the solar
in the
system.
solar
She
system.
wants to know if it's peaceful or whether there's warfare within our solar system, including the moon.
Yeah, it is not peaceful. They're the ones that actually are running in this. They're the ones that destroyed the Murrah building in Oklahoma City, and that was a weapon that used molecular dissociation. There's a great book out by Woods. Her last name is Woods, and it's called "What Happened to the Towers," and because there was nothing left. And what they were trying to do is figure out what kind of a weapon there was, and she explains that it was molecular dissociation. This weapon, when it's fired from space, destroys the molecular makeup of everything that they aim it at. Now, building 1 and 2 and 7 were all destroyed by this weapon, and the reason there was no steel or concrete or anything like that left is because it was all disintegrated. All that black cloud that came down in Manhattan, the middle of the street, was all of that was just the disassociation of steel and concrete into about 80 microns, and that was all that dust there. Now, what happened is that when they had a heck of a time explaining where all the steel was, but nobody asked that many questions. We were blaming some real fantastic other things, and so when they got ready to rebuild the center, the World Trade Center 1 and 2 and 7. The first building that they were going to rebuild was the Deutsche Bank. And what happened is, as they started to lay the concrete and get the building in place, it started to immediately disintegrate. And that's where our information came that it was a weapon that disintegrated both concrete and steel, because there was nothing left, absolutely nothing. And so that's what remained. Now, what happened, they didn't realize that when they pulled the trigger on that thing, that the action didn't stop. It kept on disintegrating. So when they put up the Deutsche building, it immediately started to disintegrate. So what they did is they had to, in order to not let people see what was going on, they made reflecting pools where the weapon had fired, and those weapons in the center, building 1 and 2 and 7, there's reflecting pools there that are there strictly to absorb or try and mitigate all the action and reaction that's going on from the weapon they fired.
So is this the Serpents, Dracos, who and their cohorts? Who has fired the shots?
You said there's reptilians in there. there's reptilians and
No,
there's serpents.
no,
Yeah, like,
they
what's the
just gave us
difference?
the information. They just gave
Okay,
us
go
the
ahead.
information. They're not one. It was the people who fired the shots are the people that are running the Earth. Now, when you
So
say running
who's
the Earth,
running the earth?
they're in place there, running everything, running the big show there. And no, it wasn't the reptilians, it wasn't the serpents. It was the people that are in charge. Now, when you ask who's in charge, I don't really
Mm-hmm.
know. I can give you a an estimate of what I thought, but it's pretty far out. I'll give it to you anyway.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, we like far out.
When the World War II came to an end, it was told that Hitler committed suicide. He didn't commit suicide. He was taken in a submarine, either to Antarctica or Argentina. And he lived there for many years. We supplied, when I say we, the United States supplied him with all kinds of information that he needed, all kinds of materials that he needed, and he didn't actually pass away until think it was 1982, but it might have been later. And he was more or less in charge of all the stuff that went on. When this was going on at the end of World War II, the people that were in charge of what to do with all the Germans, the one guy was head of the CIA. One guy was head of the. If you'll help me with the names, I'll tell you what it is. One guy
Alan Dulles.
Pardon?
Alan Dulles.
Alan Dulles and his brother, who was head of the CIA, and their sister, who was head of the Berlin desk in Berlin. And between the three of them, they were the ones that handled all of the German scientists that were coming over here. That was Project Paperclip, and there was probably I think around 5,000 people, 5,000 Germans that were sent down to El Paso, Alamogordo, and those places to help with our rocket program. And that's why Werner von Braun grew so rapidly in this thing that was going on. They immediately took over. NACA, NACA, which became NASA, NASA, and all of that, all the hierarchy, were part of the German that came over after the war was done. Now, I think those are the guys that are in charge, but that doesn't mean they were. That's just an estimate of who I think is in charge.
Did they have round-wing craft? What kind of what were they flying?
What were they flying?
Yeah.
Do they have
What were they flying?
the round wing craft that the UFO type craft that we heard about that was popular in the World War II? Is that what you're saying, Sasha?
Yeah, I want to know what kind. From where was the shot fired? Was it from an aircraft, or where was it fired from?
Which shot?
The one that
the one that destroyed the World Trade Center, or are you talking about another one?
Yes. Yeah.
The one that destroyed the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
They were fired from space. They were built by the programs that were put in orbit starting in the 1950s. Now, my father was formed Lear Incorporated in 1930, and he was part of. I'm trying to think his name. Part of the guy who became head of Motorola. And my father, in 1952, his company was given the contract to build anti-gravity, or to find out what anti-gravity was all about and how they could have their own flying saucers. My father went to Bogota in 1953, and unfortunately ran his mouth off to the reporters there about UFOs, about this, about that. And when he got back, he was really given the heave-ho from MJ-12, who ran everything. And he was pretty much quiet for the rest of his life. He never said very much to anybody about that, and I think the reason was because they were told him that they were going to kill his wife and his children if he mentioned anything about this. But anyway, that program was a successful program, and in 1956 they had their own flying saucers. And during the break, if we got a break, I'm going to get the book of a guy that was involved in all this. So anyway, that's pretty much the beginning of all the moon stuff and how Hitler was involved in it.
Well, I got a couple questions. Okay. So we didn't get to the why they took down the Twin Towers and Building 7. What was that about?
I don't know.
A
lot of people, why did they destroy those? You know, was it to give the guy the money for the two buildings that were destroyed? What was his name? The guy that said that they accidentally destroyed. But who was the guy, the front man for those guys? Do you remember? Do you remember the name?
No, I don't remember the name.
Well, I don't know. I have to look it up.
But it's obvious that by what they did in return is that they used it as an opportunity to create war in Iraq. It was their excuse. We are dealing with a problem by taking away your civil liberties and killing Iraqis.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, one of the interesting things that happened during this war in Afghanistan was there was thousands of miles of tunnels that go through the earth all the time. I mean, there are tunnels everywhere. And there was an American troop that was exploring around in Afghanistan, and in one of these tunnels, they came across a regular flying saucer that was, it was under the surface, and it was about 30 feet in diameter. And there was probably 10 of them in this group that explored it, and they were really interested in what was there. And one of the guys went up and touched it, and when he touched it, he disappeared, and he was never seen again. Now, what happened is that's a protective measure that the aliens have of any of those people anybody that wants to explore the UFOs. And what they do is, if you touch it, you just go into a room in the saucer and you stay there in suspended animation until the owners come back, and then you tell them your story and why you were there and why you touched it and all that. And as far as I know, the guy's still there. But the guys that I knew that knew about this story, they're still around. So I don't know what the status is.
That sounds very much like what happened to Travis Walton.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Travis Walton was he got touched by them, and then he was killed, but it was a different story. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, he didn't touch anything. They shot him accidentally, and they took him up for a week to repair him. And then when he came back, he had to explain what happened to him and how they repaired. I sat with Travis in his living room there and had him tell me the whole story from beginning to end and all the stuff that happened to him. And it was really interesting. There's lots more than they showed in the movie or anything like that. He was a super nice guy. And we just sat there and talked all about the stuff.
I have a couple more questions. You mentioned earlier that there are reptilians and serpents. What's the difference between a reptilian and a serpent, besides the hierarchy?
The reptilians work for the serpents. They're the ones that operate the Greys. The Greys are just actually robots, and they're around picking up people and doing all kinds of information. Now, when I first got into this information about UFOs, I thought originally that the aliens were picking up 1 in 10, and I was wondering, what were they going to do with those people? It turns out they pick up everybody, and they pick up everybody at 3, 5, 7, 10, and 13. And that just goes on forever. what they're doing is they're checking to see how the guys are doing, and if they need any upgrades to their fantastic experiment. And that's what the reptilians are doing. The serpents come down, and if there's something wrong, they're the ones that take care of it. Now, when the guys above the serpents gave the order to destroy everything, though the serpents were the one that had the power to destroy everything in 2 seconds, a planet twice the size of Earth, and 112 billion people destroyed in 2 seconds.
Do they have wings and tail, or are they more like a like a dragon? Or are there really
Some of
dragons?
them do. Some of them do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lou Baldwin was in the Army stationed in Okinawa, and they used to send him over to Vietnam with his particular group of people when monsters were found. And what they were monsters that had wings. They were about 7 or 8 feet tall, and the wings, it didn't appear to be flying with these wings, but they did have them. And so whenever one was spotted, they'd send these guys over, which included Lou, and they'd search around where they were last seen and see if they could come up with any information on them.
So they were just walking. They were.
What did they find?
They weren't flying.
Pardon?
Did they catch one? What did their research reveal?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Did they capture any of them? Were they alive? Were they all dead?
Oh,
were they...
no, they were alive, and they harassed them. The people who came, to explore them, they obviously weren't going to be caught. But Lou says one came up behind him, and he could feel his hot breath or something on the back of his neck when they were around. And there's all kinds of interesting stories about these. Now, that particular monster, the same kind of the monsters that show up in Virginia, the flying, what do they call them? Mothman. The same as Mothman.
Yeah.
Now, when you hear about Sasquatch and all those kind, those are real, but they're Martians. And when you see all the hairy stuff and can't figure out what they're doing, those are costumes that they're wearing. And they go around looking for food and doing all kinds of other stuff, but those are just costumes that they're wearing.
So they're not really hairy. What do they look like naturally then? They're not like you said, Sasquatch. They're tall and hairy. So what are they? They're hairless. They're naturally hairless.
I don't know.
What do they look like? We don't know what they look like. Okay.
I don't know what they really look like.
Okay.
But the costumes they unzip.
We know that Zana in Russia, who was a Sasquatch, had babies with Russian men, and they were just they looked like ugly Russians.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a story of Zana. Yeah, ugly Russian. What about the Anunnaki? What do you think? Who are the Anunnaki? What are the Anunnaki? What's
the only thing I got from Lou about the Anunnaki is they're getting a lot more credit for stuff that they didn't do, and they don't have very much to do with anything.
Okay, so the main characters are the reptilians,
reptilian serpents,
and the serpents, and their little servants, the greys. So there are no alive greys. They're just kind of robots. There's no living greys. Did they use them?
Exactly.
Did they model them
Exactly.
after living? They're all just robots. Okay.
That's exactly what's going on. They're robots, and essentially robots, but much more advanced than anything we know about.
What about like the mantis and Pleiadians and Andromedans and other types of species? Are they real? Do they exist? Are they part of this cosmos? here? The
I
solar
don't know.
system.
I wish I knew all the answer to these questions, but all I find out is little bits and pieces of information and try and put it together. But I really don't know what the whole story is.
Okay, so we covered the moon. We did a little bit of the space stuff programs. What's going on with Mars?
Mars has had a lot of problems. They're basically a hostile people that live up there, and many hundreds of thousands of years ago they had a big fight, and I don't know who the fight was, but between. But on the Mars now, there's people that live on the surface, and also people that live underground. So I don't know what's going on there.
Okay.
Well, I just, if you probably heard the reports of Randy Kramer and Corey Good and stuff, basically sounds like a special U.S. soldiers and Marines are on Mars. Have you read that stuff?
Possible. I don't know that much about it, though.
Yeah, because there's a whole bunch of people coming out saying that they've been in the secret space program. Some of them are genetically enhanced super soldiers. Do you have any information on any of those things that are going on?
No, when information
There's
comes out like that, I just take it with a grain of salt, and
Mm-hmm.
I figure out that's just what the people that are in charge of the humans that are in charge of the cover-up, they came up with different stories. Now, the stuff that's going on in Area 51, they're just trying to cover up what they know. And some really stupid stuff has been coming out there. Now, the J-Rod, remember the stories about the J-Rod?
Mm-hmm.
They tried to make the J-Rod, 5.5 feet tall, and said he was a visitor. And at one point, they said they are coming to Earth because they are on the backside of a evolutionary curve, and their evolutionary curve is taking them downhill as far as evolution is concerned. So they came to Earth to see if we could help them. That's total bullshit. The guys, come in flying saucers that can go faster than 20 times faster than the speed of light, and they're coming to Earth to find out what's going on and if we could help them. I mean, they actually thought they were going to sell that to the public. And the last thing I heard about the J-Rod is that they did something and we helped them, and then when he left, they took him to the pyramid in Egypt, and he had this little vehicle, and he got in it and went whizzing down beside the pyramid and disappeared as if he was going back to wherever he came from. And what that did was supposed to tell the public that they're gone, we helped them, they won't be back here anymore. And the stuff that
Sounds like
they
E.T.
have, the stuff that they've told us about are just insanely stupid. And one of the things they had is trying to think about what are these stories that they were coming up with. I'll think of it in a minute, but I can't remember what it was now. Who was the guy that just died that had the website about
Mitchell.
No.
What?
Edgar Mitchell just died, but what's the rest of the question? He had the website about what?
Mitchell just died. Edgar Mitchell?
Yeah, Edgar Mitchell died.
I didn't know that.
Months back. I'll get his date of death. Yeah, he died. Yeah. Well, I'm telling you something you didn't know. Okay. And I don't know who you're referred to. Give me a little more, another hint. What was his website about that you're trying to think of right now? Someone who just died?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who the guy was. He came here to get to find out as much as he could, and this is like 20 years ago. And I was going to tell you, he bought into the J-Rod hook, line, and sinker, and there's pictures of him going into the climate-controlled place that they had at S4, and where he where they kept him captured. You look at that stuff, and it's just so much BS about us keeping somebody who came from millions of stars away, and we're capturing and keeping him at S4. I mean, who's going to believe that? Everybody.
What about the? I heard the J. Rod story at one of the UFO Congress conventions, and there was a fellow, and I can't think of his name, but he said he ended it with that the being went through a Stargate portal, like on your website there. So I don't know, the different variations on the theme. Edgar Mitchell died February 4th of this year at the age of 85. And what do you think of the story of the Edens and Planet Serpo, Journey to Serpo, with
Serpo?
Yeah.
The first time I heard the Serpo story was many years ago, 30, 40 years ago, and it wasn't a bunch of people, it was 3 people that went, and one died there on Zeta Reticuli, and 2 came back, and then one was supposedly couldn't accept all of that and died, and then there was one guy that continued to live. That's all I know about Serpo, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of them that went there and played basketball with the the Grays.
And they lived there many years. Oh, Dan Burrish, is that who you were talking about? Dan Burrish? About J.
Dan
Rod?
Burrish, that's the guy, yeah, Dan. And he was so knowledgeable.
We're on a break. We'll be back.
How long do we get? How long do I get?
About 5 minutes or 5. Continental U.S. only. All right, Dr. Lesson, anything let's say before we bring back John?
No, I just, John, you got such an insider view. I want to hear more of what you got to say.
Right. And we have opened up the mic for the second hour. Please feel free to call us. Thomas, would you tell our listeners what number they need to call to get into the show?
Studio B number is 310-421-4053, or a Mad Painter on Skype, or if that number fails, you can try 229-299-5320.
Okay. You want to repeat that 310 number again real quick? Because
310-421-4053.
Okay. And that's Studio B.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. And there is a question from Stardust Man. What do you know about the mile-high towers on the moon?
I mean, you want to know right now?
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, I'm giving you a question from one of our listeners. Stardust Man wants to know, what do you know about the mile-high towers on the moon?
I don't know. And there's so many towers that are a mile high on the moon. I'm not sure what he's talking about. However, the one that's in the dead center of the moon, and the one that Hoagland talked about and got me interested in all of this, was, and I can't remember the name of the crater we figured it was in. It's the tripod that it's on is 5 miles high, and on top of that is a cube that's 1 mile in each diameter, or in each measurement. And that's been there for a long time, and I don't know what that's for, but when I was reading all that stuff, I was reading some of the books about the guys that are involved in the Army program to remote view, and one of them was, and I forget his name, was tasked to find out where the soul went after anybody died. So there was this one guy that died in a car crash south of San Francisco, apparently 40 or 50 miles out of San Francisco, and he was tasked to find out where this guy went. So he followed him, and he was going out into space, and then pretty soon it was obvious that he was going direct to the moon. And he was told in his mind, stay away from here, this is not your place, you may not come here. And that message was created, and it became so loud and so threatening that he had to break it off. And I'll remember the guy's name, but I can't remember what it is now. Anyway, he broke off the following, and that's when I got interested in. I wonder if that cube that's on top of the tower has anything to do, because that might be where the soul goes, because that's where he was following the that was where he was following the soul was going direct to the moon. So I thought, well, maybe he's going into that thing that's on top of the tripod. But Lee Baldwin says,
Did you
no,
ha-
that's not it.
Oh, what does he say then?
He hasn't told us, but he said that's not it.
Okay. Well, there's a story by Errol the Gray, and Spencer's the author, and called Alien Interview, and she says that this whole part of the Earth and I guess the moon and immediate area around here are prison planets. And so souls are not able to escape this sphere of influence and go, free. So we're basically in prison. So that kind of correlates with that. But what else do you know about life after death? What's some of your information on that?
Once you're, and Lou Baldwin goes into this at great depth, but once you're born and you get a soul, that goes on forever. It goes on forever and ever and ever. You do not die. So if you're thinking about committing suicide, don't do it, because what happens is if you kill yourself, you're going to come back. You're going to come back to Earth, and you've got to do it. Learn to do your life all over again, with avoiding envy, hate, or greed, and do it all over again. And so it's always going to be like 10 times worse than it was before. So I have a friend that committed suicide on a motorcycle, and I'm in touch with him all the time, and he's the one that told me when and where this accident was. And no, he's not going to do himself in again, but he's going to work through this lifetime and then go on in his life.
How does he? So you're saying he's alive now in a human body, and he killed himself before, or are you talking to his ghost? I got confused what you just said here. Are you communicating with him now that he's dead, or is he still
he comes over to my house all the time. And we were talking about this, and he said, yeah, I know that's true, because I committed suicide in a previous life,
okay.
and I certainly wouldn't do it again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, how do you know that you committed suicide in a previous life when you're alive again? Is that something he just remembered, or is there indicators like you're... How does one know that they killed themselves before? Or is this just they're having a very bad life or something? Or what are some of the indicators that you know that you...
a bad life, couldn't put up with his wife, or, stuff that he couldn't handle, and he just decided, well, I'm going to kill myself because that'll be the end. But it's not. You just got to start all over again. And this goes on and on and on. And once you are able to live your life without envy, hate, or greed, and with hold on, I got my hat. I can't remember. Integrity. Integrity is what you got to live your life with, and without envy, hate, or greed. And so that's what we all strive for. Now, when we die, we go immediately to a place where it's fantastic. It looks fantastic. When the guy died, and I'm trying to think, was it Steve Jobs who died a couple of years ago? And
yes, Steve Jobs.
His family was around his bed, and the last thing that he said was, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow," and what he was seeing was. What he was seeing was the place where he's met, and where everybody is met. Now, if you believe in Jesus Christ, you meet him. If you believe in, hold on just a second. Yeah. If you believe in what was Muslims believe in? I forget. You're met by him. If you believe in whatever you believe in, they meet you when you leave this life, and they take you and introduce you to all your, or take you to where you can meet all your previous relatives, and you can talk with them for half an hour or so, and then you're taken to a life review room where they show you your entire life recorded as if it was taken in 3D. Every single sound, everything you did is shown to you, and they are trying to figure out whether it's worth for you to go on to the fourth dimension, which is heaven, or whether you got to go back to Earth. Now, Earth is indeed a prison planet, just like a million other Earths, almost identical to our Earth is. And now I'm going to be met by the Great Pumpkin, because that's who I believe in.
Hey, I believe in the Great Pumpkin too.
But anyway, that's what happens. And if you go on to the fourth dimension, they spend a couple of lifetimes there, two or three lifetimes, and then you can decide whether you want to go to the fifth dimension, or whether you want to stay there in the fourth dimension, or what it is you want to do. But the important thing to know here is that the way we have to live is with integrity, without envy, hate, or greed, or you aren't going to go anywhere. And you get a bunch of chances, but then once it's done, you never remember. You're not allowed to remember any of this. And I'm sure that you and I and everybody listening have at least 200 or 300 lifetimes behind us. I mean, we've been around for so long, but all that is hidden from us in your brain. All the places you've been, and extremely interesting.
Wow. Question, Sash.
Oh, I'd like to know what you've learned about Agartha, inner Earth, not just under Antarctica, but in this maze of tunnels. How extensive it is, and how big are the caverns? How does the inner sun work? Tell us about the inner Earth.
I don't know how the inner light works, but Antarctica is with a lot of the researchers at NASA and all those people. They've done a lot of stuff under Antarctica. There's a lot of interesting places to go, and I don't know what we're doing there. Probably trying to find out, what Hitler was doing there, but that goes on forever and ever and ever. And sometimes we get to help them, sometimes we don't. But that goes on forever. Our lifetime goes on forever. Some of the pictures that come out in some of the books are very interesting, and we have so much stuff going on in Antarctica. It's just amazing how much stuff there is down there.
So what was going on at Dulce? Was there a battle? Was there a reptoid species that allied with what was his name? Richards?
Yeah, Mark Richards.
Mark Richards. So did they have a slave trade going on, and a bordello for intergalactic travelers to use human?
Are you asking what's going on? Are you asking what's going on?
What in Dulce? What happened before the raid, and what's going on since?
Well, I don't know that much. First time I heard about Dulce was I went to Crestone, Colorado. There's 8 researchers, UFO researchers, that were given a place to meet for a couple of days, and we traded a lot of information. But as we left, one of the guys, Tom Adams, left. Gave me a piece of paper. He said, "John, this came in the mail to me, and I'm not going to be in Las Vegas, so would you research it?" And the piece of paper said, my name is Terry Hinkle. I live in Henderson, in Las Vegas. I had a friend who was a guard at Dulce, and he used to visit me. And at some point, several years ago, he escaped with 6 minutes of videotape, 100 black and white photos, and 50 or 60 pages of information. And what he did was he made copies of all this and put them in 6 different boxes, wrapped the boxes so that it wouldn't be easy to find or to discover. And they took these boxes and he hid them for 6 of his friends. The guard had 6 of his friends, and he said, I'm going to contact you every 4 months. If I miss 2 meetings, in other words, 8 months, you haven't seen me, that means that I've been captured, and you're welcome to go and find those cases and open them and see all that stuff. So I met Sherry, and she was the one that told me all that stuff. And we had some interesting times meeting. She drove me, or I drove her down to, I'm trying to think that place out between Dolan Springs, and we made the turn off there, and she showed me a mountain on the right, and she said, it's up on that mountain, and I remember exactly where I buried it. So then several years later, 10, 15, 20 years, I don't remember how much it was, he didn't make the contact in 8 months, so we were free to go. Now, Cherry had told Bill, I think Bill Steinman and some other people who went on 4 or 5 different missions to find the box, and we never did. I say we, not me, them. I never went because, I just can't climb the mountain, to get in there.
Right.
I don't think it's very steep, but it's a long, long way. So I don't know what happened. Now, recently I've had some friends come and visit me that go to Dulce every day, and they don't tell me much because a lot of the people that are getting that tell me information are not are being really hold on just a second.
Intimidated.
A lot of the people that have this information have been intimidated, and apparently there's some way that when they visit me in this room, the next day, whatever unit they're in or something, they're called in by security, and they say, what were you doing at John Lear's house between 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. and 9:21 p.m.? And of course, they have an answer ready, but they weren't doing anything, and he doesn't give me any information that would be doing that. But the test site now, and here's something that not very many people know, other than the people that work there and live there in the test site. They're making the entire area this security 10 times what it is at Area 51. And Area 51, of course, is in the test site. But the people that work at Tonopah, the people who work at Mercury, they're all getting the same treatment, which is lie detector test every 90 days. And I don't know whether they still ask this question, but 20 years ago, the first question they were asked is, do you know John Lear, and what have you done with it? What have you told him lately? And that was the first question they were asked. And so a lot of them, I don't get many visits anymore. There is a huge prison in the middle of the test site that nobody ever escapes from. I think that helicopter that crashed here about 10, 15 years ago, trying to escape from there, I think that might have had something to do with the new prison. But I know people that have seen it and say it's absolutely enormous, and this is where they put people that give any information or tell anything about what's going on, because their information sources are so reliable now. They know when somebody has told stuff that they shouldn't have.
Well, do you think you might have bugs in your house? That might be
absolutely.
easy to do.
Absolutely. There's been bugs in here ever since my children are now in their 40s. When they're teenagers, they used to have the telephone company come up here and change all kinds of the telephones into different rooms and different types of telephones and stuff. So we were pretty friendly with the guy, and I think that was Centel information. And the guy came in one day after doing some work. He said, "John, your phone is bugged." And I said, "Well, I wouldn't doubt it." He said, "Well, I'd like to find out because that should be in my information, and it's not." And I said, "Okay, well, don't worry about it." But he said, "Well, I'm not, but I'm going to go and find out." So he came back about 2 hours later, and he said, "I checked, and it's not bugged between here and Bonanza or Bonanza to downtown where Centel is, and I can't find it, so it must be in a different, different hideaway there." So I said, "Well, don't worry about it." He said, "Well, I'm going to." So he went that evening into a place that took a pretty high clearance to get into, and he came the next morning and he said, "John, I can't work on your phones anymore." And I said, "Why?" He said, "I took this to my boss, and I said, I went to where Lear's phone is being tapped, and there's no paperwork with it. And, they have to get paperwork to tap your phone." He said, "There is no paperwork, so what should I do?" And his boss told him, "If you don't like your job, quit." And so that was the last time I heard of him. Yeah, and so it's been bugged forever. There used to not be so many people up there living up where I live, and on the next street over there was 2 houses that were just sat there all by themselves, and I don't know who built it or why. But later, a couple of years later, a black guy who was FBI, who used to carry a sign in front of the FBI headquarters, and complaining about this and that. And he came to my house one day. He said, "John, you see those 2 houses up there?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "That's where they look at what you're doing and bug what you're doing. That's all those houses are there for." And so on and on and on.
What makes you so important, John? What makes you so important that they have to spend all this time, energy, money, resources bugging you?
Because I got so much information from Bob Lazar, and the guy that was worked at Area 51 for a long time told me that the whole Lazar thing was specifically so that they could get Lazar up there, show him some stuff, and then we knew that he'd immediately go to you and tell it, and so we want to see what happens if that information came out. So, and the guy's name, I'm trying to think, I had it written down, I don't know, but he was MJ1, and so I don't know what's going on there, but I do know that one of the secret things now is that they're tightening up the security at the Nevada test site tighter than it was ever before.
John, how did the craft propel and steer, and how fast do they go?
According to who?
What's your bet? You've read all this stuff. What's your guess about the leading hypotheses?
Is this the Roswell craft?
No, the craft that our clandestine Illuminati use.
The Lazar craft, or any craft, any craft you're aware of. What are they? What's the technology? What are they?
Well, the ones that Lou Baldwin talks about can go to the ends of the universe instantaneously. It's hard to describe the speed because essentially it's just the travel of souls or a soul, and you can go anywhere at any time. And apparently there is an air traffic control like we use for airplanes, and you have to have permission to go to here and a permission to go to there. And there are craft, that are a lot slower than that. Now, the craft that you see that the Greys have, they can probably go, 20 or 30 times the speed of light. And there's other ones that go slower and other ones that go faster.
So is there an end of the universe?
Pardon?
Is there an end of the universe? You know, they
No.
they played with that on Star Trek. They kept going to the end of existence, and there was a
No.
concept for years. So
Yeah, no, there's no end to the universe when NASA says that, they have the Hubble telescope up there, and they can look 16 to 19 billion light years, all that. That's nothing. I mean, there is a lot more different places than that, and it goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. There's no place, and there's so many different people that know and go to these different places. Lou Baldwin talks about any person that you can imagine. He said they exist, and they just come from places that are so far away it's just impossible to explain.
so what's the attraction for them to come here and hang out with humanity?
They made us. They want to
So
be sure that that whatever is going on, whether it's an experiment or what is going on, they want to be sure that we have the latest upgrades. They want to be sure that things are going on as they planned, and that's their interest.
So what's the next stage that they've planned?
Any idea
Right.
where we're going with this grand experiment of human life and consciousness?
No.
No.
But you'll get a
Yeah,
lot more information. You'll get a lot more information than I'm telling you now if you buy any of Lou Baldwin's books and see what he has to say about it. Now, you may ask, well, how do you know he's telling the truth? Well, I've been in this for so long, 30 years, and I really do think that he has the bottom line. But you have to read his books to realize what's going on.
So you're still in contact with Lou?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So does he live in the United States, or is he over in Europe?
No, he lives in the United States.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, okay, I got a bunch of questions. Let me see if any has I'll try to call in or anything. 1 second here. I'll check with Tom. Thomas, any calls or anybody?
No,
Thomas,
ma'am.
you
There's been no call. It takes me a minute to get to the mute button.
Okay, I don't know what happened to the people that were calling
I have
in.
a
They
question
said they'd
for
call
him,
in after. Oh,
if you
you
don't
have a
mind.
question? Good, Tom.
What is the all-over
Thomas?
purpose of them collecting our souls on the moon?
Because when you die, your soul has to go to the clearinghouse to find out, to look at your life review and determine how you conducted yourself on Earth. Did you live your life with integrity, without envy, hate, or greed, or were you just a bank robber or no good, and you want to go back and live it again and learn what's going on? But there has to be a central place, and the guy that was tasked to do this for the Army said that the soul was going towards the moon. So that's why I say that it's probably the central place. Now, the moon was fabricated about, trying to think of the number, I think it was 8 billion years ago or something like that. And that's always been orbiting Earth. And that's where the Greys they have huge laboratories and underground places on the moon, and that's where they keep track of humans.
So it's kind of like you go there to determine where you're going next. Apparently, how you spend your next life. If
you're being good, then you get your choice of staying in the fourth dimension. You have to stay in the fourth dimension if you're being good. If you've been a bad boy, then there's no question you're coming back to a prison planet like Earth, but not exactly. Now, if you go to these prison planets, you find out that everything's the same, the oceans and all that, but the houses are different. They're on different streets and they have different names. So
I find that interesting. So we're running parallel with other prison planets then.
Yeah, there's a billion other prison planets.
I have a question. John, what do you think of the Georgia Guidestones and the depopulation bomb? I want to go just tie this back in with the 112 billion souls that were lost on the planet that was twice as big as Earth. Do you have any idea? Is this part of that agenda that they periodically, depopulate planets? Or what keeps them from blowing up this planet? And what's going on that level?
Nothing. That might happen.
But we won't really feel it because we'll instantly be out of our bodies. And is that the asteroid belt? Is that part of the asteroid belt, the original planet, or was it disintegrated like the Twin Towers? That will type of blow up. You know that. Go ahead.
Ask the question again.
The original planet that had 112 billion souls and was twice as big as the Earth, is that the part of the asteroid belt, or was it disintegrated similar to how they vaporized the Twin Towers?
No, they made the asteroid belt is made from that planet that blew up. The little thing that they blew up the World Trade Center with, that's just a tinker toy.
Do you think they're going to do what they said on the Georgia Guidestones, which is to bring our population down to, I forget if it's 500 million or 500,000?
Now, what's that? What about 500,000?
The Georgia Guidestones. Are you familiar with the Georgia Guidestones?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now I know what you're talking about. So what does it say?
Well, it says they're going to reduce the Earth's population down to, 500 million or 500,000 or something.
Well, that's okay.
That's enough breeding capability.
Yeah, well, when Planet Man was destroyed, they killed all the 112 billion people with a very highly toxic bacteria, and it only took a second. So we don't have to worry about it. Nobody ever knows what's going on. It's a surprise if they knew about it.
Right. So what is the purpose of having the human species? You said we're part of their experiment, or we're like their pets or something to check on us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're their pets, and they're checking on it, and they're so far advanced and have been around for so many hundreds of billions of trillions of years. We just couldn't even believe how old we are or how old they are.
So this gentleman, Lou Baldwin, and he's written a bunch of books. What other subjects does he cover?
He covers, and the one I first read was the Roswell incident, and from the time that they took the craft and they took it up to supposedly Los Alamos and started exploring pieces in that. There's a whole book about that, what they found and what they did with it, and all kinds of really interesting stuff. Then there's another book about him taken into different parts of the universe and what was it like to be in a craft that went hundreds and millions of different light years, and where they went. And then there's one about how he grew up for the first couple of years, about living in Italy and then moving back to the United States, and those are about the main ones I can remember.
Okay. So what, according to him, or according to what you know, what actually happened at Roswell? I have a whistleblower that says that the Roswell craft was delivered intentionally like a Trojan horse. There were two craft, one that crashed and one that was
By Kingman, yeah.
was pretty much intact. And it's like a Trojan horse, and this one whistleblower says they delivered 5 in 5 different locations around the planet at the same time, and now they can, just monitor the planet on a whole different level. And there's all kinds of other theories about Roswell. What do you know about Roswell, and where is the craft today?
Well, there's many stories. First of all, the Roswell, we're told that was the first indication that we had that there was people from other other planets here, but that's not true. I mean, we had indications that there was, people from or ETs as far back as even before the 30s, and so they're off, trying to keep a handle. Now the ETs have been around forever and ever and ever, but we just happen to notice that. Because our technology got to where we could strap it to the wing of a B-17 and fly it over here. But there was just too much that we knew when Roswell came along that it wasn't a complete surprise. They had, the security there. They knew what was going on, and they put so many things in place immediately that, they knew what was going on. So that was That was actually the purpose of Roswell was to give us information, and to give us a little information. And we took that, and as we explored the different information, we knew more and more about what they were doing, or what their technology was.
So I wanted to talk a little bit more about what is life like. You said that in one of your interviews you were talking about alien space stations and life on other planets. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what's going on? What is really the structure out there?
There is so much going on. We would absolutely not believe it, because there's so many cities that are out in space, not particularly on a planet, but just orbiting planets. They're pretty impossible to see, because the buildings are made out of a material that's kind of like glass. You can't see them, and but those are all around. And he talks a lot about, now Lou's was allowed to remember where he's from, and he's from, the last place he lived was Uranus, and there was the people on that planet. There's buildings that are 50 miles high, and you get an apartment, maybe 25 or 30 miles up, and there's everything that you could possibly want, and as far as life stuff, you get to, there's no money. They don't need any money, because you get everything that you need that you can ask for. The food is absolutely fantastic, and on and on and on. But there's a book that's all about that.
So how did we get money? How did we get stuck with this stupid system of money? If these other planets and space programs say they don't have money to get your needs met.
They have what?
You said that these other planets don't have money. How did humanity come by money? How did we get this whole system of money?
Oh, we needed a way to purchase things that we desired. So money came out as far as the Earth was concerned. All the stuff that was found from the beginning of mankind had to have a way to get it. So the aliens don't need any of that stuff, because they make all the stuff. They don't really need it.
Okay, my brother's trying to call in. Sasha or Tom, would you like to ask a question while I try to get my brother into the show?
Oh, the phones haven't been coming to me. There's something messed up.
There's something going on, because I know my brother just texted me, said,
What transpired between Ike and the ETs?
I'm sorry, say again.
Tell us about Eisenhower's meeting with the extraterrestrials, please.
Oh, well, Eisenhower's meeting, well, he was the story that's pretty much most accepted, because there's a lot of evidence of it. But he was at the dentist in Palm Springs when he was told that a craft had landed at Edwards Air Force Base, which was called Edwards. Let's see, what was that called? I forget what the name of the base was, but I'll remember it in a second. And he had to go up there, and it was a weekend. There wasn't very many people there, but he met with the ETs, and apparently they wanted to help us, but they didn't want to give us any advanced weaponry, which is what we wanted. So apparently that meeting came to an unsuccessful end. Then in 1963, there was another meeting, and that was the one that was held at Alamogordo. And I'm not sure if Eisenhower was in on that one, but there was another meeting like that. And I don't remember if that's where we got weapons or not, but we seem to have a lot of ET stuff. The reason how we got a hold of it.
Okay. Go ahead. You have another question? Let me see. I have a list of questions here. Let's see.
I was going to tell you about all the.
Go ahead. You talk.
Yeah. Pardon?
Go ahead.
all the
I know what it
interesting
was.
stuff. I'm glad I live in Las Vegas. This is where all the stuff is going on, and I told you about all the security they're making at Las Vegas, and they've got some new super secret bases. There's one that's halfway between the Tonopah Test Range and Groom Lake, and this place is called Sandia, and it's on the Paiute Mesa. And we first learned about it when there was one of our group that his father drove a cement truck, and he told us that they had made 5 separate explosions a mile beneath the earth that cleared out the material so that they could build sleeping quarters and places to live for the people that were going to be involved in whatever was going on. And so these holes went down a mile and 5,000 feet. And this guy's father drove a cement truck, and they just wind down. It took them a couple hours to get there, and then pour the cement, and then wind back up and get another load, and on and on and on. So those things are there, and that's been 20 years ago. So those are in use. The main secret base is on the Paiute Mesa, and when they were digging it, what I noticed flying around there was that it looked like they were taking the top of a mountain off because everything was white, and that's the color of the material. If you start digging down, absolute, white. And so that's when I wonder what they're digging there. And then later I found out, well, that's Sandy. And what they did is built the secret base, and then they put the dirt back on it, so it didn't look like there was anything happening. But that was the base under there. Now, to the northwest, about, I think, 11 miles, is the new base, like Area 51, the secret base. This place is even more secret. It has 2 runways oriented in a northwest-southeast direction. And other than the other places that they build, what they did with this one is they had 2 runways, and in the middle of the runways, they had hangars and offices, and what this enabled them to do is just craft without everybody knowing what was going on. The people that lived on the north west side, would never know what the other people are doing because it's hidden by the office and hangars that are going on. So they could launch one after the other, and nobody would be aware of what's going on there. So then another secret place, there's been a helicopter base north of Nellis. I think it's about 10 miles north. It's underground, and those guys fly around a lot. Now, there was another one that I wouldn't have known anything about unless they'd come along and dropped a brand new case of dynamite in my backyard. And this is when I had the mining operation, the cutthroat mine at Gold Butte, and the BLM guy was the one that first told me. He says, "You're not going to believe what I found." I said, "What?" He said, "Look it over here. Here's a brand new case of unexploded dynamite. What do you think they're doing this?" I said, "That's probably the guys that are building the secret base." And the secret base is just a little bit to the north of Lime Canyon. And I had a guy who was flying the that big, what do they call that thing with 2 inches? The wings rotate. Completely useless, total piece of junk. And talked with the colonel who was running that. He mentioned, we have another place that we do. And the reason they asked me that is because I drove up in my ATV, and it was only about 4 miles south of the mine. And the guy comes down, and he says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "What am I doing here? This is part of my mine property." And he said, "Well, we were told by the Nellis people that nobody ever came here, and this was about as secret as they could get around here, Las Vegas." And I said, "Well, I know about it now." And he said, "Well, there's another place to the north of here that we use also." And that's how I found the new secret base. But I didn't find it exactly. I know within 5 miles where it is, but I've looked on Google. I've done everything I could possibly do. Now, before I quit looking at all these stuff, what was really interesting and semi-hilarious, I was on my ATV with another guy, and we're just tooling along on what they call the Old Gold Butte Road. And it was just near the canyon called Lime Canyon that goes down to the Overton arm, a part of the lake. And here comes an Air Force, one of those big trucks that has, a couple or 3 seats in it, seats that go all the way across. And there was 4 people in it. There was the driver, a guy sitting next to him, and then 2 guys in the middle seats. And as I slowed down for them to pass me, it was so obvious that nobody had briefed what to do if they ran into somebody, because 3 of the guys had this, oh my God, look, oh my God, there's people here, we're going to be exposed. And then the 4th guy was Mr. Happy, and he had a big smile on his face and waving to us. So it was obvious that they hadn't decided what they're going to do if somebody ran in there. But those are the guys that were part of the building of the secret base.
Wow.
Were they uniformed?
I don't remember. I think they were.
So just to give you a heads up, there are people that are trying to get on, and for some reason, it's not letting Tom add the call, or
It's not letting me do anything. I can't call out. I can't pull somebody in.
so if you're listening, people that are trying to call in, there's something going on with the studio, and we're not able to take calls or make calls. So I was trying to call my brother because he had a question. But if you're listening, if you type in the chat your question, we will read it aloud to John, and he will be delighted to answer.
So let me just reiterate something from what you said before. If somebody breaches security, they may lock them up and they'll never come out. Is that what you said?
Are you talking to me?
They have that prison. Yes, yeah, we're talking to you, John. There was that prison where nobody escapes.
For talking, for whistleblowing.
Yeah, they're trying to.
So, has anybody disappeared that you think might be in there? Do you suspect anything?
Well, the people that it was like 25 years ago that all these people that knew what was going on, and they wanted to tell somebody, so they'd come to my gate or my door, my front door, and say, "John here, and we wanted to tell you," and they'd give me the information. But then they started the lie detector stuff to ask, who was up here and what were they doing and why were they, asking questions. But none of those guys have I ever heard from. And this is 1990. This is when all the information was clamped down of people giving me information.
So you're like a little a trap for the flies to come in and they catch them. Oh, we'll just go John, put them in this prison that nobody can return from. Oh, that's horrible.
They told me at security headquarters at Nellis Air Force Base that when you walk in there, there's 3 targets, like you see the range, and my picture's in the center of one. Bob Lazar's picture was in the center of another one, and then I don't remember who the third one was.
So tell us a little bit more about your relationship with Bob Lazar. Are you still on good terms?
Yeah.
How did you meet and everything?
Did I meet
He
Bob
came to your
Lazar?
door? Yeah, how did you meet in the first place? Did he come to your door or something? Or
I gave a lecture at the Spring Valley Library in 1987, and there was a lot of people there. And in the next day, also I was doing interviews with George Knapp, who had a program called On the Record, and I went like on 3 different weeks in a row, and people were just so starved for information that they thought that I would either need it or I would like to have stuff that they knew. And so they'd like knock on the door or come to the gate and leave a message or stuff like that. And that happened in 1987, 88, and that's when a guy called. His name was Gene Huff, and he said, John, I'd like to see if I could get some of that stuff that you showed at the Spring Valley Library. Do you have any of those tapes or stuff that you'd like to sell? And I said, Gene, I'd love to sell it and everything, but there's been so many people banging on my door that my wife has taken everything away, all my records, all my files, cut off my phone, and told me to quit fooling around with the UFO stuff. And I said, if I ever get back into what's going on, I said, I'd be happy to give you a call. He says, okay, well, I'm a real estate appraiser, and I'll trade you an appraisal for a copy of all your stuff. And I said, okay, wait a minute. I'll do that now because I was looking for a second mortgage on my house to get some more money. And he said, I'll come over next Saturday. So when next Saturday, he showed up, and he had a guy with him. And Gene introduced and said, this is Bob Lazar. We came in, and we were in my den, and Gene and I started talking about flying saucers. And Bob Lazar couldn't be less interested. He rolled his eyes and said, look, I work at Los Alamos. He said, and if there had been such a thing, I would have known. So during this is the summer of 88. And so during the next 4 months, we gave Bob 4 things that we knew about, or 3 things that we knew about, but not even the average person or average security guy would know about. And we told him, number 1, there was a missile, and I forget what the name of it was. Then we knew that the mail stop where they kept the alien, not the alien was getting any mail, but that's where the mail stop was, and something else. And then whatever it was, Bob, when next time he talked to his friends at LaSalle, he said that was pretty good information. So over the next few months, he began to accept a little bit of this information. And in October of 88, he said, I'm going to try and get a job up at Area 51. And the next thing I knew was December 6th of 88, and he comes into my house. He was always over there in the evening, and he said, I saw a disc today. I said, what? He said, I saw a disc today. And I said, theirs or ours? He said, theirs. I said, you touched it? He said, yeah. And I said, well, then what are you doing at my house? I said, it's obviously they followed you, and, there's going to be a lot of problems here. He says, John, I've seen you take so much crap over this UFO stuff. I wanted to tell you, I was there. UFOs are there. They have them. They fly them. Da 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 da. And he said, I'm willing to risk whatever I, go through or learn to tell you that it's all real.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah, I was
So
there. I
over
was
the next
paying
few,
attention back then.
what?
I was following the whole story back in the 80s. I was, actively involved in UFO research myself in those days, although it was just kind of a fly on the wall compared to what you guys were going through. So I remember when Bob first came out. So that's the background story about how that came about. That's fascinating. So my brother finally got in, and he wants to know, what is your theory on gravity? And are you aware of the electric universe theory? and he's
Yes, I'm
listening.
aware of the Electric University. I don't think much of it. As far as gravity, the person that just found out, or 1993, was Perry Spolter, Spolter. She wrote a book published in 1993 called the Gravitational Force of the Sun. I think that's the name of the book. Anyway, she explains that Newton was wrong. He described everything was wrong. She wrote in the book. She says the guy who really was found out what was going on was, and I can't remember his name. But she wrote a book. Read the book, and you'll find out how gravity is really occurs. And she wrote that in 1993. When I got a hold of that, that opened up a whole new thing because, we're always told that the gravitational force of the moon is 1/6 that of Earth, and so we know that can't be true for several reasons. One is the Apollo scam. Those pictures of people walking along in 1/6 gravity of Earth, they weren't going 6 inches into the air, and they had to be going like 10 or 12 feet, or if there was any gravity at all there. And so we found out that I asked her to figure out what the gravity was at the time that they landed in Apollo 11, and what she could tell me about that. So see, she took the exact time, July 20th, 1969, and the time, and she used as information the pull of the sun and 3 other things. I mean, she is a great, not only mathematician, but she really knows her stuff. And she wrote out a piece of paper that said the gravitational pull of the moon at where Armstrong was 68% that of Earth. And so that really let us know how things work on the planet, on the moon, and a whole bunch of different stuff. The only problem with Perry, and I haven't talked to her this year, she absolutely does not believe that the Apollo missions were fake. No matter how much information I send to her, and no matter how brilliant she is in mathematics, she will absolutely not accept that fact. She keeps talking about Apollo 15 and how they did the measurement. I said, they never went. And and she just sticks with that, and I haven't talked to her yet. Here it is, July, August. I got to give her a call because she was getting up on years. But, I had to promise her that I wasn't going to go around and talk about all this. But that is, in fact, the gravitational pull of the moon is 68% that of Earth.
Well, that's the end of our show. How do people reach you,
so much,
John? You have a website. What's your website?
I think, I don't remember, but they look at John Lear in the Google, or I'll tell you what, I'm in the phone book. I've been in the phone book here in Las Vegas for 40 years, and so
all right.
you can find the number there.
Okay, thank you. We're out of time. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, John Lear. Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, stuff that is written by Lou Baldwin. That's Baldin. He wrote 5 books on this subject. Really knowledgeable. I met this guy on Above Top Secret, and of course this was too far out for anybody there. They did a bunch of morons in Above Top Secret, so you're not going to be able to get any information from them. But I eventually contacted Lou, bought all his books, read them all, invited him to Las Vegas. He came here and we filmed him. They're making a documentary on me, and if it ever comes out, it's going to have a lot of this information. And so that was where I get a lot of the information that is backed up with a lot of historical information.
Well, what's Lou's source? Is he?
Lou was born in 1947 in Italy, and his father was part of the U.S. Army stationed in Italy, and he at 5 years old he was picked up by the ETs and taken over the period of the next 35 or 40 years, taken to all different places in the universe. He had interesting rides everywhere, and since I've read so much of this stuff, I can immediately pick out what's true and what's false. And this guy was absolutely on the money, absolutely true with all the stuff that he was saying, and he put out a lot of information on Above Top Secret, and everybody, just they couldn't take it, but I thought it was, and just very, very interesting. So if anybody wants to get any of those books, either Lulu or Amazon or any of those, look for the author, Lou Baldin, Baldin. And if I can find, I'm at my desk now, and I'm reading one of the books that I've read for about the fifth time, and it's really interesting how the hierarchy works with the ETs. And it's just...
So he's still with us. He's still alive.
Well, the question is,
still there.
What's working on the moon? I've seen pictures from Ken Johnson of series of domes on the moon. I've seen pictures from Bob Dean that show a strip mine. What are they doing on the moon?
Oh yeah, that's strip mine. That's my picture that I got from a bucket wheel excavator, and also, pardon?
Yeah, that's a picture I saw.
Yeah, I think they're on the moon, the picture of the living moon. There's a picture there of the bucket wheel excavator. And I started looking those, and I said I wanted to get that particular picture. So I sent to NASA, and of course you don't get the picture from NASA, you get it from the contractors. And in a couple of weeks it came from the mail, and what happened is, all those pictures come from contractors. They don't come from NASA themselves. They come from contractors. Somehow, somebody, either accidentally or on purpose, managed to send me a 15 by 20 negative of that picture. And it was so interesting, all the stuff that was on there, that I started, copying it and showing it around. And one of my friends then was Bob Lazar, and the picture that I first got wasn't that clear. We're waiting for somebody to come out that had a lot more, a better negative that we could, not negative, but positive that we could look at. As I left Bob's house one day, he says, John, you're crazy, but if any of this stuff turns out to be true, I'm going to kill myself. And I said, okay, Bob, well, I'll tell you what. Let me write that down. And so I said, I, Bob Lazar, promise to kill myself if any of John Lear's stuff is true. So in about a couple of years after that is when the technology in Las Vegas reached the point where we could get a 15 by 20 positive that showed absolutely everything. And I took it into Bob and showed it to him, and he said, well, that's true. And I started to leave, and I said, now, wait a minute. You promised to kill yourself, Bob, if any of this stuff was true. And he said, is there any way I can get out of this? And I said, yeah, just take this little piece of paper and say, I, Bob Lazar, in return for not having to kill myself, do freely admit that there is an object on the moon that looks like a building. And so I got him to sign that, and I've held that ever since. And also, that's on thelivingmoon.com too. I think both of those pieces of paper are on the livingmoon.com.
Cool.
What are they mining?
Yeah, what's the deal up there?
I don't know. Some of the
Don't know what
pictures.
they're mining.
There's what?
You don't know. You don't know what they're mining. Okay, so these pictures, I want to back up again. How do we have them? They didn't send a lunar. They just sent like. How did they get the picture of these things on the moon again? I want to back up to that. I got confused. If we didn't send
Okay.
They had
a
photographic
mission,
missions.
well, how were they doing? So did they send like a satellite, or how did they get pictures?
Okay, I didn't hear you. Tell me what the question
How
is.
did it, she wants to know how they got the pictures, the missions that preceded the manned missions, and where so-called manned missions. Where did the pictures come from? She wants to
Yeah,
know.
how
Those
did
were
they
the-
get these pictures if we didn't
those-
send any
those-
missions there?
Those came from the
Do you
Lunar Orbiter series, and there was 5 of those missions. They were sent just robotic cameras that they'd sent between 1965 and 1967, and it took maybe, I think, 1,000 pictures for each place that they were exploring. Now, what they were doing is they knew that they weren't going to the moon, but they wanted to show people that they were making an effort, and those missions were they told the public, we're just seeing where it's going to be possible to land the Apollo missions, Apollo 11, when it gets there. We want to see very good, clear pictures of where the Apollo missions are going to land, and that's where those pictures came from.
Now, has any humans from Earth, this is like 50 years later, have we gone there since then, since the Apollo missions? Are we going there now?
Thousands of people have been to the moon. Most of them don't say anything because they know people just flat ass wouldn't believe it, and so they keep their mouths shut. And yes, there are a lot of people that have visited there.
So are we in some kind of relationship with the people who live on the moon, with the 250 million people?
Yeah, there's 2 sets of people that we know of. One are the humans that live there, and they trade with all the people from the other planets. Now, NASA tells us that there's 9 planets orbiting the sun. It's actually 40, and each one of those 40 planets has a few, or actually 7 to 10 moons, and all of those planets and the moons, they do all kinds of growing and exploring and not exploring, but taking care of the all the stuff that's going on. They do trading. It's really an interesting deal. There's so much stuff going on there. Now,
So it's more like Star Trek? Is it Star Trek, very peaceful, or is it Star Wars, a lot of fighting? What do we have out there for real?
On the moon?
In space, in space,
In the solar system,
the solar
she
system.
wants to know if it's peaceful or whether there's warfare within our solar system, including the moon.
Yeah, it is not peaceful. They're the ones that actually are running in this. They're the ones that destroyed the Murrah building in Oklahoma City, and that was a weapon that used molecular dissociation. There's a great book out by Woods. Her last name is Woods, and it's called What Happened to the Towers, because there was nothing left. And what they were trying to do is figure out what kind of a weapon there was, and she explains that it was molecular dissociation. This weapon, when it's fired from space, destroys the molecular makeup of everything that they aim it at. Now, building 1 and 2 and 7 were all destroyed by this weapon, and the reason there was no steel or concrete or anything like that left is because it was all disintegrated. All that black cloud that came down in Manhattan, the middle of the street, was all of that was just the disassociation of steel and concrete into about 80 microns, and that was all that dust there. Now, what happened? Drawings for it, and all they did was for the missions that they showed on TV. All that was a what's the name of those missions that they sent?
Apollo?
Go ahead. What was the name of the missions?
The Apollo missions? And they
you
were
got to forgive
filmed
me because you got to forgive me. I'm almost 74 and I'm losing most of my memory.
I'll speak. Yeah, that's called the. Are you talking about the Apollo missions? Or
yeah.
Because they were the ones that
I just want to know,
supposedly went to the moon. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just whatever the name of that rocket was, it's supposed to. I think it was Saturn V. But anyway, all they had was Saturn IV, and they dressed it up to look like a Saturn V. But there was nothing. I mean, it was a fake. And the way you can tell that is any photo that NASA has published, there's none with a second stage, with a picture of second stage firing, because there was no second stage firing. They waited until it got out of sight, and then they said, it's too far downrange, we can't do that, da 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 da. And some of the really bad things, nasty things that happened is Virgil Grissom was very close to exposing this whole thing. And there's a couple of people that I know that say, yeah, he was going to tell what was going on. He made a comment in 1967 that he was standing by the module that they were going to use. He says, this thing ain't going to go to the moon in 2 years. This thing ain't going to the moon in 10 years. And so they had to kill him. And the way they did it is they waited till one of the practice missions, and there was always 4 people in there on the practice missions. And the fourth guy was NASA was the head of the Apollo program, and I try to remember his name. He went to New York that day for a party celebrating Apollo, and the person he put in there instead of this guy was one of the people that was in the secret space program. And the reason they did that is because he was already vetted, already had all the clearances, and they knew that if they killed him, that there wasn't going to be anybody asking any questions. So during the practice mission, they had they had all the transmissions going back and forth, because between the mission that was just there, it wasn't going anywhere. And Virgil Grissom said, "How are we going to get to the moon and talk to anybody if we can't even talk between 500 yards?" And so I think it was February 7th, 1967, is when when one of the guys said, "I smell smoke," and NASA had rigged the part of the spaceship that would instantly just catch on fire. And so, everybody in mission control is watching this thing. I'd really, it's maybe morbid, but I'd like to hear what Virgil Grissom, because he knew they were going to kill him, but he didn't know that it was going to be that day. And so he's yelling and screaming and da-da-da. And anyway, they burned all 4 people. Now, if you read any mission report of this fire, you'll notice that there's 45 minutes that nobody says anything. And it was never explained why everything was so quiet and why there was nothing in the recording. Well, the reason is the secret NSA people had to go in and take out the 4th crew member who was part of the secret program, because if there was a secret, if there was a secret program, everybody would want to know, well, wait a minute, where did this guy come from? What secret program? And so they had to kill them all. Anyway, a friend of mine was the 3rd guy on the on the platform, and he's the one that told me all this, and it was really sad.
Wow.
But I think he knows now. I know the name of the fourth guy, and I've never told anybody about it. Because if somebody comes to me and says, well, I know who it was, and all I have to do is say, okay, what was his name? And since I haven't told anybody, I know that he won't be exposed because I've never told that particular name. So I'm holding on to the name now, if it ever comes. But it's been what 40 years since this,
It
and
says 40. Let's see, 49 years ago. Looks like January 27th. They said 1967. Yeah, you were close. January 27th, 67. Of course, that's what they say now in the computer. Who knows? They can change anything. But anyway, that's what's here. Virgil
Grissom.
Grissom, White, and Edward White, and Roger Chaffee were the three that officially died.
Right.
Yeah.
And I met Chaffee's relatives at the UFO conference in San Jose in 2000. I think it was 2007. And they said, John, we're glad you're coming out with this information because we knew it. We knew all along they killed them. And we were just waiting for somebody to find out who was responsible for it. And they took one of the children of those astronauts and gave him a real cushy job there. And he's been fed all this information for all these years that is just an accident. But there are people still out there that know what happened.
So what about Stanley Kubrick?
Oh, wait, they were all showing. Not only do they know what happened, is they all saw that the threat of blabbering will kill you. If you everyone got the message. They got to see it. Wow.
Yeah, Kubrick was hired.
Loud and clear.
Kubrick was hired to film the fake missions on the moon, and he did a good job, but it was still fake. And he did it. I think it was in England. There's a couple of videotapes out there that show exactly what he did. And after he did that, he made the fake missions. I mean, it's so obvious when somebody shows you the pictures and how NASA screwed it up. But there is a lot of pictures out there of what happened and how they did it. Kubrick, after this was all over, he went to his house, wherever that was, and he hid out until he died because he knew that NASA was going to come and dispatch him.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Well, how do people get to and from the moon? How do they get there? How are they transported? What kind of craft do they have? How do they go to and from?
Yeah, are these human people? Are they aliens? Are they humanoids? What kind of people are on the moon? A quarter billion people.
We're all a quarter of a billion people. Yeah, we're all aliens. Our particular set, humans that live on Earth, we're just a long list of people that were put on Earth to see how they're doing. They made all of us, and that's the big secret of the UFOs. They don't want people to know that it's just a scam. I mean, we're just we're not anything but just regular people, essentially robots that go around and do all this stuff. But the people that really run this are the let's see, there's the reptilians, and above them are the serpents, and they're the ones that control everything. Now, an interesting story about that is how much power they had. There was a planet between Jupiter and Mars. It was called Man, M-A-N, and it used to orbit between Jupiter and Mars, and it was fantastic. It was twice the size of Earth, and it had 112 billion people living on it, and they had fantastic living living stuff. They had as much gold and silver as they could ever want. It was essentially, a utopian society. And that particular society went on for about 1 million or 2 million years. And finally, the serpents, who are the very top of what's going on, the reptilians get orders from them, and what they want to do is get rid of man. So what they did is they selected a time, and when they destroyed it, it took exactly 2 seconds to destroy the planet that was twice the size of Earth. 112 billion people were instantly exterminated, and all those people, all the souls went to the center of the galaxy, and it was really something. It was really quite a deal there when they were ordered to kill so many people. But
So,
we
what's
have
the source of this information? Where is this written, or how do you
read
come by
any of
this
this stuff.
information?
You can read any of this.
Tell me
Yeah,
more about.
Area 51, Mars civilizations, moon landing conspiracies, etc., etc. So, welcome to our show, John Lear. Thank you for coming today.
It's my pleasure. What's going on?
We're very excited to have you here. So, where would you like to start? What's your favorite topic of all these things? And there's a list. I was looking through your YouTubes, and you are very knowledgeable. Where would you like to begin? We'll give you the ball, and then we'll ask you questions here and there.
The moon.
The moon.
The
Okay,
moon,
great.
Luna.
What's going on in the moon? What is really going on in the moon?
Okay, well, first of all, every alleged mission, Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo, were all fake. There's no doubt about that. Nobody went to the moon. Now, the moon is populated by, my estimation is about a quarter of a billion people are up there. And
Wow.
I get that estimate because I've gotten so much help and so many pictures from the moon. And I had the great fortune about 20 years ago or so to get some of the early NASA photos that the NASA took with what they call it, I forget, but they sent 6 missions just exploring and taking pictures. And those pictures were really great. However, they airbrushed most of the stuff out of it. Fortunately, they weren't too knowledgeable about airbrushing. So I was in Portland at a very large bookshop, and I saw a section on NASA photographs of the moon, and I bought them all. There was about 10 of them, and that was fortunate for me because there are none on the market now because they didn't know how, or they weren't really going to really carefully airbrush everything. So they know what's up there, and you're not sending anybody up there. And as I don't think they're going anywhere unless they're held by ET. So I've got some great pictures, and if you go to thelivingmoon.com, we've posted some of them, and we'll be posting even more in the next few days or in the next few weeks.
Oh, wonderful.
I've seen a number of pictures and heard different kinds of things, but one that really gets me is, are there slave facilities on the moon and Mars? Are some of the workers there against their will? What did you find out?
What are your thoughts?
Okay, what was that? Was that a question for me?
Yes.
Okay, what was the question?
Tell me about who is on the moon and what they're doing, and are they slaves?
Right. Are these people free will or are they slaves?
I wish I knew now. Most of the information
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to get is from the people that have been up there. For instance, Howard Menger. Write that down, Howard, and then Menger,
Okay.
Menger. Go to his website, and there's
Hmm.
he wrote a book after he got back in 1956 about what was going on there, and it's fascinating about how they picked him up, how he was a guest there for a couple of weeks, and all the stuff that he did. He died about 2 years ago, but before he did, I was able to get an answer to several questions that I wanted. For one was the daytime color of the sky. And of course, NASA's told us it's black. It's not. It's a saffron yellow. And we made took a picture of NASA. It's a picture that they took of Copernicus. And
Uh-huh.
instead of the black for the sky, we put the saffron yellow. And I sent him 6 swatches of colors and asked him to pick the one that was closest to what he saw. And he
Mm-hmm.
picked one, and so that's those pictures that are on the livingmoon.com. It's so interesting to see the stuff that's going on on the moon and how NASA tries to keep all that information hidden. And I don't know how they do it. For instance, a couple of years ago, they were going to try and go back to the moon. Of course, they couldn't find any of the drawings or the stuff of the rocket. See, what was the rocket called? Something 5, Agena 5? No, remember what it was. Anyway, they said they couldn't find it. No drawings. They just disappeared. They didn't disappear.
Mm-hmm.
They never went. They didn't need any